Let's talk a little Toronto Raptors in our Wrap It Up segment. The Raptors are absolutely just dominating the Cavs in the first half. And you mentioned nights out. There's a lot of things going on right now, and I just tweeted it out, but, maybe a little too many nights in Toronto for the Cavs, as the Cavs have been here since, I think, Tuesday or Monday night. And once you get into 2 nights in the city of Toronto and you're not used to that, that wave's a little bit too much. You might get caught up in that wave. That's all I'm saying. And the Cavs got run over in the first half.
Last time I was in Toronto around New Year's, I went to this great bar called Mahjong.
Yep.
Oh, I hope that they were there because I had a pretty rough morning the next day after I was there. I'll tell you that.
Shout out to that bar, by the way, owned by friend of the show, Kyle, who is a really good buddy of mine, actually. Good buddy and good buddy of a beer. If you're a longtime listener to Yon Blast podcast, you're familiar with the beer. So shout out to Kyle and the bar Mahjong. Check it out in Toronto.
Big shouts to Kyle, man. That place was jumping when I was there, let me tell you.
Well, the Cavs better get jumping in the second half or else they're just done. A crazy first half by the Raps. And, I mean, people probably didn't expect this with no Lowry, no Serge, which we'll get to later on in our Wrap It Up segment, just what's going on with the Raptors. But overall, what did you make of this game so far?
Well, it's like, what do you put more stock in? The Cavs' porous defense? Is that for real? Or is the second unit of this Raptors team for real? I mean, it is something to behold. I mean, you hear about it in Toronto media, but I don't think that the rest of the NBA world is really taking account how good the Raptors bench is.
Yeah.
And, man, I'll tell you, they are subbing these guys in and out and getting up and down the court, man. It is very impressive.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's still a whole first half to play, and you'll probably hear us react to whatever if something's going on down the stretch. But, I mean, the thing to me with the bench going against the Cavs team, it's really a clash of styles, I think, right? Because the Cavs, they want to dictate the pace, right? Like, you have these guys, LeBron, and, even if the second unit comes in with D Wade or Isaiah, whatever, these guys are used to playing at their pace. Whereas this Raptors bench, with this new culture change that they have in Toronto, the Raptors bench is just go, 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 go. And they're young guys. So they're getting all the loose balls. They're getting all the offensive rebounds. They're getting all the hustle plays and the quick ball movements and the back cuts, all that stuff that happens with fundamentally sound teams running a system. That's what you're seeing right now with the Raptors bench, as opposed to the Cavs, who are kind of just trying to walk their way, sleepwalk their way through a game,
Not only that, but I mean, you talk about the youth of the Raptors bench and kind of the old age of the Cavs bench now.
Oh, yeah.
It's 2 totally different styles, 2 totally different generations of players.
Do you know what it is, too? It's funny. Charles Barkley always says this on TNT. He's like, you can tell when somebody gets old. You can tell when a star or just any NBA player gets old because they get into the lane and they start up faking.
Yeah.
Just watch D Wade lately. That's all I'll say. I don't want to slam D Wade because that's my dude.
Years now.
Well, that's my dude. D Wade's my guy. I don't want to slam D Wade too much, but
I can't.
All I'll say is, that old adage from Charles Barkley, I heard him say that. And then when you pay attention to certain guys and they get to a certain point of their career, definitely a telltale sign. How often you get in the lane and you start pump faking. Once you get to 1, 2, 3 pump fakes, right? You're kind of washed.
So true. Look at Carmelo now too, right?
Oh, jeez. Tough stuff. But again, Raps going on with the Cavs right now. Hopefully they can keep this up. And as always, we'll touch on that as the game goes along. But the Raptors are still laying the beat down on the Cavs. And, maybe we'll get ahead of this top conversation that's probably going to dominate tomorrow, Webby. Overreaction. What do you take away from the Raptors blowing out the Cavs in this game?
I mean, I said it last week, and their week so far has kind of backed it up, especially doing this to the Cavs without Serge and Kyle. Mm-hmm. I think there's a really good shot that the Raptors could be the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference.
Yes, and obviously, people will overreact and be convinced that the Raptors are a great team and the Raptors have a chance against the Cavs in the playoffs. And I'm not going to temper those expectations because, hey, Raptors fans, enjoy this, right? You're blowing out the Cleveland Cavaliers after they've embarrassed you in the playoffs 2 straight years. Enjoy this victory for what it is. But remember what it is, and it's a regular season. And hey, it's good reps for the Young Bucks, great reps for the Young Bucks, actually. Great to get your fan base excited, but as I said last week,
it's not going to matter until you can beat the Cavs in the postseason.
Exactly. To steal the line again, have that same energy every time you meet the Cavs, right? Every time you meet the Cavs, have that same energy. That's what I think the biggest takeaway should be coming out of this game. Because, obviously the other thing for the Cavs, Webby, and I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like they started off terribly, right? They're getting used to play with each other. They finally figure out how to play with each other. They go on a little run, and then IT comes back. And then now you got to figure out how to play. You almost kind of have to do it all over again, right? And now we see them kind of struggling, no? Is that what's going on with the Cavs, do you think, or is there deeper issues?
Well, there's deeper issues in that they can't guard anybody. Can't guard a team with a half decent offense.
Yeah.
But the other one is, too, now it's going to happen again when Derrick Rose comes back. And then it's going to happen again when they try and make a deal and pull off a trade for somebody else in the middle of the season. So this is going to be, a whole season of the Cavs trying to find their way, trying to find a way to play with these new pieces. And can they get it done by the time the playoffs roll around?
For sure. The Cleveland Cavaliers definitely will need to figure some stuff out. And the Toronto Raptors, enjoy this win. But I will also like to give a huge shout out for this win to Drizzy Drake in the opening of his restaurant this week, and to Mona, who probably all had a good part or a good hand in the Cleveland Cavaliers performance tonight. So shout out to them, and shout out to Raptors fans for their support of this team. But again, my biggest takeaway is keep that same energy every time you see the Cavs. That's what I want to see. I like this, but keep that same energy. Right?
Absolutely.
And
Ooh.
Right now, as we speak, the Raptors are still blowing out the Cleveland Cavaliers, which is just, probably unheard of. Because people, if you would have taken a poll of what Raptor fans or NBA pundits would have thought heading into a game with no Kyle Lowry, no Serge Ibaka, probably wouldn't have had the Raptors favored to win that game, much less the Raptors to blow out the Cavs. But beyond that, let's talk more about big picture Raps, what's going on here. So Kyle Lowry got hurt against the Nets. And a funny story for you, Webby, no word of a lie. C. Brown, who we both used to work with, right?
Yeah.
Before I left work, me and C. Brown are just shooting the shit. We're just talking about the Raps and how good the season's going. And I was like, yeah, everything's going great. But the one thing that makes me nervous is it's about that time of year right now where that Kyle Lowry injury pops up.
Right, the back injury.
Just something, right? Like we've seen it the past 3 years in a row, right? Where he just like wears down the stretch, and whether it's a wrist injury or it was an elbow one year. And I was just saying, it's about that time of year, and then boom, that same exact night. Oh, he sent me like the most angry text message. Like, what did you do? You jinxed it. And obviously we're joking, and all jokes aside, but does that worry you? Is that something to worry you, Kyle Lowry, down the stretch here?
Well, we were talking about it, I think, last week or 2 weeks ago about how this like culture change with the Raptors is really good for Kyle long term, because it seemed like he didn't have to take over the load for Toronto in the mid-season, right?
Yeah.
This injury bug of his in the middle of the season, you just don't want to see him lose that conditioning.
Yeah.
That seems to be happening. Now, I think for the time being, they're fine. Like we've been saying, this second unit's been amazing, and the way that they're kind of rotating their players in and out of the game has been unbelievable. Dwayne Casey's done a great job, but I am worried about maybe his conditioning down the stretch, because he is still so important to the team, especially come playoff time.
Yeah, it's one thing in the regular season to be beating the Cavs and blowing them out, and we all know that the playoffs are a different ball game. But we know that at least for the regular season and down the stretch, because your seeding is going to be so important, especially if you're trying to make waves in the East, and you want those home games, that home game 7, if you're playing the Celtics or playing the Wizards or whoever, right? So these games will be important, but I don't actually think that the loss of Lowry will hurt them as much as it would have in past years. I think that's what you're saying as well. Just what we've seen with this culture change and the style of play that the Raps have now, the ball movement, like everyone's involved. Like Freddie is ready to go. I know that's your guy, Freddie Van Vliet, right? And
you know it, man.
Those guys, him and DeLon, are just ready to go off the bench, and Norm is slowly coming along. But the big picture is that, you got these kids and you got this system, and it's just working for the Raptors right now, where losing Lowry doesn't hurt them as much as it would have the past few years, where, they would kind of play 500 ball down the stretch heading into the playoffs and have people really worried heading in. I don't think the same thing will happen this year. And so if you're Lowry, take the time and sit out and make sure that you're healthy.
Exactly. But the problem is, well, not even the problem, but the thing with Lowry is that he's not one to say, oh, yeah, okay, I'll just take a week or two off. You know that I bet that he was pretty close to playing in this Cleveland game. It's going to take quite a bit to keep him off the court. And that's good. I think that, obviously you don't want to rush back if there's still something wrong with you. But if it's just a bruised tailbone and something that he can heal up after a couple of days, maybe even a week, I don't think that that's a problem at all.
No, totally. I agree with you for sure. And I think that, all Raptor fans hope that he comes back. And you're right. The way that he plays, it's a style of play, right? Like that's a freak injury that happens just because of, how reckless, but I don't mean that in a negative connotation, but how like reckless he is with his body because he just plays hard. And I think for a play like that, it just shows you why Kyle Lowry is Kyle Lowry, because he goes so hard all the time. So you kind of got to accept the little nicks every once in a while, right? The bumps and bruises every once in a while. So, Kyle Lowry will be fine. But someone else who might have taken some bumps and bruises if things went a little differently here. We mentioned the Cavs game, and the Raptors were missing Serge Ibaka as well. They were missing Serge Ibaka because of a quote-unquote fight or an NBA fight with James Johnson. that game was kind of crazy.
In terms of NBA fights, that was pretty good. I mean, there were some punches thrown there.
There were kind of some, I feel like Serge kind of threw some punches and James Johnson was throwing like some forearm elbows, like some kind of get off me type shimmies. You know what I mean? The best part to me anyways was when Serge Ibaka, there's a one shot from below the basket and you can see Serge Ibaka have the realization, I guess, that
James Johnson is a black belt?
Yes. That I probably don't want to fight James Johnson of all people. And he just sort of raises his hands up and he's like, oh, I'm good. That was the most amazing part to me.
Same with me. I mean, that was heat of the moment thing, but I think Serge realized pretty quickly who was standing right in front of him. And we talk about, like, people talk a lot about their all, like, back alley NBA team.
Yeah.
You've got to put James Johnson in there just because he's like John Claude Van Damme with a black belt.
Oh, yeah. James Johnson, like, says that he can jump and kick the rim. Like,
what?
Yes, like he says he can jump and like kick the mesh for sure, but he says the rim. Like that is crazy. That's insane, right? But he is a black belt. So, I mean, if you really want to know about James Johnson, just go to YouTube and put in James Johnson, Dan Le Batard show, or maybe it was a Highly Questionable. I think he was on. And he was just telling the story of how he grew up in a family of black belts and how if they had to solve issues with any of them, amongst any of them, they would have to fight it out. Like, imagine that as a thing. You have to fight with, like, you have an issue with your brother or your dad. It's like, all right, let's go outside to the ring, and you got to fight it out. Like, what?
No. It's not the ring. You take it to the dojo.
My bad. My terminology was off. Well played, Webby. Well played. But the other little dust up happened at the end of the game between DeMar DeRozan and Goran Dragic. Now, to me, obviously, we know that James Johnson would dust Serge Ibaka, but what about Dragic and DeMar? What do you think if, like, it actually came down to it? What's going on there? Who you got?
Well, I think that Dragic has either been working on his English or DeRozan's been working on his Croatian. Because Dragic leaned right in there and said something to DeRozan that led to a slap.
So good. It was so good. And like, I was just reminded of the Vince Staples shit that he did for The Ringer, where he's like, don't try DeMar DeRozan. You don't want to try DeMar. You don't want to try DeMar DeRozan. Yes, that Compton boy, not someone you want to mess with at all, Goran Dragic. But that was just a funny sight to see. But, it was rare to see DeMar kind of get that mad. We don't really see that from DeMar. We see that a lot from Serge, though. And I wonder, what is it with Serge Ibaka? We've seen him get into it with the Lopez twin. I think it was Robin. We've seen him get into it with LaMarcus Aldridge, right? What is it with Serge Ibaka?
Something about playing down low. Something about playing in that painted area that gets guys going. It happened to Shaq, too, a bunch back in the day.
Serge, is he that guy that is always doing, those little, cheap elbows or, grabbing dudes? I just wonder what it is. It's something to pay attention to because I wonder, I know, obviously, we watch Raptor games, so every time something happens to Serge, we know about it. But it just seems weird for a guy to always have these instances with other big guys in the league. It just seems so weird to me. Also, 2 weeks in a row for Serge Ibaka getting into scuffles, right? Because last week it was with a team official or was that 2 weeks ago? Whatever.
It was Jamal McGlory that you picked, right?
We don't know who it is, right? Jamal McGlory is just some reckless speculation from us, but we have no idea who it was with, right? We still don't know who that was with. There's no cameras around or no reporting on that. But back-to-back weeks, Serge Ibaka is just someone everybody wants to fight. What is going on? It's so weird.
What I like is this budding rivalry between the Raptors and Heat.
Yeah, and
I'm here for it. I'm here for that, second round matchup with the Raptors in the playoffs. I think that'd be an awesome 7-game series.
I didn't even realize the Heat were all the way up to the 4 seed in the Eastern Conference.
Bro, the Heat are good.
Yeah, and even without Dion Waiters, who's about to shut it down for the entire season.
Yeah, which is a shame. They might even be a little bit better.
Yeah, it's been a crazy season for them, and it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But obviously the last time the Raptors and Heat met in the playoffs, that was a great 7-game series, and the Heat might be better equipped now to give the Raptors a go, but also the Raptors might be better equipped than they were in that playoff run as well. So that would be a great matchup. And, add in James Johnson, who is a former Raptor. You have a lot of different layers to that matchup. Maybe that is something to look forward to down the stretch.
Yeah, definitely. And I think they play. They definitely play once more.
Yeah. No, definitely.
I think they play a couple of times more, and those will be games to keep your eye on for sure, man.
Yeah, they play 2 more times for sure. I'm pretty sure I looked it up not too long ago just to make sure, but I'm pretty sure they play 2 more times. And also, too, because I'm pretty sure if we go back to that playoff series, I'm pretty sure Kyle Lowry almost punched out Goran Dragic a couple times during that series as well, right? So maybe it is a little rivalry starting that we need to get renewed come playoff time. That will be fun.